Hey everybody, how we doing? Sunnyvale Reject back in the house with another video. And today's video is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. Normally we talk about fiction, horror, thriller, suspense, adult, and YA. But today we're going to talk about nonfiction, specifically ancient history, more specifically alternative views of ancient history, leading all the way up to the modern day. I know you guys are seeking answers, and I am too. And the mainstream story is just not telling us the entire story and the truth. We have to admit that. And this is not to say that God doesn't exist. God does exist. God is above it all. But man who writes history books and destroys history books, who is ultimately fallible, is how we get our stories and therefore our belief systems. So I got to go back about 25 or 30 years. I was reading fiction, classics, Dickens, Dostoevsky, stuff like that, and I got to a point where I felt like I'd read it all, as arrogant as that was, And I said, let me discover the world. Let me discover the world. Let me go back to nonfiction, and let me start at the beginning. And the beginning for me at that point happened to be the Sumerians. And I came across, by chance, a writer named Zecharia Sitchin. Maybe you've heard of him. But he was a preeminent scholar of Asiatic studies, Oriental studies. And I mean, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Egyptians, you name it. And he wrote a bunch of books. Most importantly were the Earth Chronicles. And these, oh gosh, let me take a drink of some water, because these books tell a fantastic story. Let me just get down to it. This is it. This is the 12th planet. Zecharia Sitchin's first book in the Earth Chronicles. And I think there was, don't get me wrong, don't get me lying here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And it started with this one, the 12th planet. Guys, when I tell you about this book, you're going to be blown away. And in some instances, if you can just substitute the word God for extraterrestrial, it makes a lot of sense. To some, it may not, right? But it makes a lot of sense that there's life on those planets we can see with our eye, as opposed to, forgive me, but an invisible savior. I just don't know how else to say it, or sugarcoat it. And I don't think I should sugarcoat it. But this is a well-researched, I'm talking about intellectual, serious, deep read. And, he worked 40 years on the Earth Chronicles, and I think about 30 years on just one book. But anyway, here it is. This is book 1. I don't have them all. I'm just going to show you my Zecharia Sitchin collection, and then I'll show you an interesting selection of other alternative history books, mythology, legends. In some cases, these are history books. The Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita. They're like holy books in India. All right, so check it out. This is the 12th planet. And just tell me, if you were in a bookstore and you were to read this on the back, would you give it a chance? Weaving the story of humanity's origins by means of archaeology, mythology, and ancient texts, Zecharia Sitchin documents extraterrestrial involvement in Earth's history in the 12th planet. Focusing primarily on ancient Sumeria, he reveals with awesome precision a complete history of the solar system as told by the Anunnaki from Nibiru, a planet that orbits close to Earth every 3,600 years. I'll show you this book one more time, and then I'm going to tell you what it's about, and then we'll move on. But this is a beautiful Barron Company hardback. Barron Company published most of his books. I'm not sure about in the beginning, but definitely later on. So this book is about a race of beings from a planet that's in our solar system, but has a wider orbit that takes about 3,600 years. It's on a star system. And through technological advance, they had destroyed their own atmosphere. So they were looking for gold so that they could pulverize it and put it in their atmosphere to refract, I guess I'm saying it right, I hope I am, infrared light, because it was killing them off, And so through their powers of observation, they found gold on Earth, and they came here. They started to mine the Earth of its gold themselves, but they were not laborers. They were scientists and royalty. And so they were about to give up, and there was a mutiny among the Anunnaki themselves, and one of them said, his name is Enki, he came up with a great idea. He said, there's a ape man already on the tree line. We can genetically engineer their DNA with our DNA and create a Lulu, or a primitive worker, and we can continue to do our job and save our home planet. Because they couldn't live on Earth, because Earth supposedly just orbited the sun so fast, that they had to drink certain things and eat certain things while they were on this planet, and that's probably where the elixir of the gods comes from. But that's the gist, and that's the origin of the story, and he does so much research. I mean, reads these ancient languages and these ancient texts, primary research too, from the original language to English, I believe. So there's a lot less room for error in translation. But that was his first book, and I don't have them all in order, so I'm just going to show you what I do have. This is Divine Encounters. These are dense, deep reads. When you open this book up and you start reading, you know you're in the presence of a great mind. Let me just say that, and he takes it all very seriously. And Zecharia Sitchin himself was Christian. I think he got admonished one time in class because a teacher mistranslated God's word, and the teacher smacked his hand and said, "You don't question God." And he said, "I wasn't questioning God, I was questioning you." And I think he was saying that those mistranslations are a real reason why folks don't believe in God. But Divine Encounters was historical accounts of man interacting with gods, or so they thought. It could have been extraterrestrials. Who knows? Okay? The interaction between mankind and spiritual beings of divine encounters, as recorded in scriptures and ancient texts, provides a powerful drama that spans heaven and earth, involving worship and devotion, eternity, mortality, love and sex, jealousy and murder. But how much of these are based on real happenings and how much are based on myth? Divine encounters. Then we have the Lost Realms. The Lost Realms, which tells the story of basically the mining operations in the Near East moving to South America after the Great Deluge swept over the earth and basically turned that place into a desert. It covered it in silt, and supposedly it took 7 years for it to dry out. So they moved the mining operation to the Andes, where the flood waters washed the gold out of the mountains, and they could do placer mining, which was very easy. They still do that in Bolivia. The Lost Realms. In the Lost Realms, Zecharia Sitchin combines archaeological, mythological, and textual evidence to uncover links between the ancient Near East and prehistoric American civilizations, links that explain the pyramids and cities of the gods in Mexico, the Mayan mastery of astronomy, the secrets of the Olmec calendar, and the presence of the oldest metropolis in the Americas on the shores of Lake Titicaca. He's probably talking about Pumapunku. Yeah, Tiwanaku. Then we have There Were Giants Upon the Earth. Another big, beautiful Barron Company paperback. Gods, demigods, and human ancestry. The evidence of alien DNA. And you've got badass chapter titles like Alexander's Quest for Immortality, In the Days Before the Flood, In Search of Noah, Sumer, where civilization began, When Kingship Was Brought Down from Heaven, of Anunnaki and Agigi. Agigi were a certain type of gods, according to the Sumerians. They were like rank and file gods beneath the Anunnaki, who were doing the labor of the Anunnaki until humans came to be. The Lost Book of Enki. I've read this twice, at least. I've read this 4 times. 4 times. The Lost Book of Enki. And this says, will the past become our future? Is humankind destined to repeat the events that occurred on another planet far away from Earth? Zecharia Sitchin's best-selling series, The Earth Chronicles, provided humanity's side of the story concerning our origins at the hands of the Anunnaki, which means those who from heaven to earth came. In the Lost Book of Enki, we now view this saga from the perspective of Lord Enki, an Anunnaki leader revered in antiquity as a god, who tells the story of these extraterrestrials' arrival on Earth from the planet Nibiru. These beings existed. They're mentioned in a lot of other texts. They sure are. Fascinating. Our history is much more fascinating than we're being told, even in this country. Check out videos on the reset, like John Levi, My Lunch Break, and you don't have to delve too deeply into the arena before you start to see that the narrative they're feeding us is not true. There was probably a very glorious, sophisticated, technologically advanced culture in this country, 1800s. And then the reset happened and they tore all these buildings down and they erased our history. They do it all the time. Here's another Sitchin. This is called the Anunnaki Chronicles. And this is basically a companion to all of his works, at least to the Earth Chronicles. But it breaks down some subjects that are kind of tough to digest, and maps, charts, things like that. I mean, very interesting stuff. But we have introducing the 12th planet, UFO pyramids and the 12th planet, work on the Stairway to Heaven, which was an epic creation by Sitchin, a great book. Is it Nibiru, God the Extraterrestrial? And it includes some never before published stuff. But this is a beautiful, beautiful hardback and a great gift for somebody that thinks about things and wants answers and wants truth with a capital T and not just silly little placations, This is my last book by Sitchin. This is The King Who Refused to Die. And it's a story of Inanna Ishtar and Gilgamesh meeting in the modern day, I think, and either coming to terms with their past or rediscovering their past together like it was some sort of repressed memory or something. But again, a beautiful hardback. Baron Company. That's in Vermont, I believe. Look at that. And those are real, that's a real, I don't know what you'd call it, I guess a carving from Sumeria, probably 2000, 3000 BC. And that's probably Inky right there. You can tell when this dude stands up, he's going to be bigger than those folks. But I think this is him gifting the humans the plow, meaning they gave us agriculture as the waters were receding from the Great Deluge about that time. And then you start to see food grown in the Fertile Crescent, is that what it's called? In the mountains of Iran and Turkey and stuff like that, where food is being grown in the mountains and slowly goes down to the valleys as the water recedes. Okay, so that completes my Zechariah Sitchin collection. Now I'm just going to show you some other books, and then I'll shut my mouth and say goodbye. The thick-ass book on world mythology. Everything from the Near East to ancient Mexico and the American West. Like, let's see. Oh, yes. All over the place. The Far East and Pacific Islands, Northern Europe, Bolivia, Peru, Venezuela, Guatemala, the United States, Canada. World Mythology, edited by Donna Rosenberg. Big, thick-ass copy. I got at the Salvation Army for $1. Look, somebody gave this book hell. And another vet, this guy's an old man now, but he, along with Sitchin, started this study in, visitations by ancient astronauts in our early, past. Our Confessions of an Egyptologist. And we got Signs of the Gods. He wrote Chariots of the Gods, which everybody knows. It was a big, big deal. And got people thinking, man. That's all I'm trying to do here, too. This was written by a PhD, John Brandenburg. It's called Life and Death on Mars, Mass Extinction and Nuclear Catastrophe on Mars. There's a lot of credible thought that says there was a nuclear catastrophe on Mars. Perhaps, like here, there was a Bronze Age civilization and some race of extraterrestrials was trying to mine it or get something from it. They said, hell no, and maybe they dropped a scatter bomb on it. I think that's what he pretty much says in this book, and there's two versions of it. Old Faithful, the Book of Enoch. Enoch was one of the few people in the Bible to say, I saw this, I was there, and they extracted it in one of their councils. That has to make you think, if the Bible is divinely inspired, how does man have the right to extract, and take out books that he doesn't think fit, for whatever reason? Think about that. I used this in graduate school like a madman. This was from Distant Days by Benjamin R. Foster. Myths, Tales, and Poetry of Ancient Mesopotamia. A translation of their cuneiform tablets. From Distant Days. Wow, I remember this one. This one has the creation myth, when Inanna went to the underworld, prayers, spells, all kinds of stuff. A wonderful book, folks, for folks interested in Sumerian history, culture. Oh boy, have you ever heard of Graham Hancock? If you haven't, you should. You should check him out. Yes. And he talks exactly like this book is written. Very sophisticated man. These books are well researched, and I mean, he's been there, rubbed his fingers across these places. He climbed the Great Pyramid, and at the top he saw his grandfather's initials, which was very cool, right? But this has chapters like Flight of the Condor, The Foam of the Sea, Peru and Bolivia, the Inca Trail to the Past. Under the chapter heading Plumed Serpent in Central America, he's got Blood and Time at the End of the World, People of the Serpent, Mexican Babel, Serpent Sanctuary. Wow. The Many Masks of the Apocalypse. But he studies early American history in the continent, specifically the United States as well, and he thinks that this might be the obvious place for an ancient, sophisticated society that had existed long ago. It's our timeline. It's not right. It's wrong. And if you check out population rates, for example, you'll see that nothing happened. There was hardly any people here, and all of a sudden, bam, it shot up to billions of people in the 1800s. They weren't doing anything but building. Somehow they were riding with sticks and building little plank houses, but building massive palaces at the same time before power tools? I don't think so. Those structures were already there. Technology of the Gods. David Hatcher Childress, an explorer, amateur archaeologist. This book is about technology of the past. Like, how did they build all of these things without power tools, and in some cases without metal? Do you ever think how hundreds of thousands of Incas and Maya lost to a boatload of Spaniards? If they had the technology to build pyramids, how could they be defeated by the Spaniards that just got off a boat, man? And a lot of people say it's because they didn't have metal. And if they didn't have metal, then how did they cut those stones? And how did they move them if they didn't have pack animals? Think about those things. Last book, and I'm shutting up. But hopefully this got you thinking about something you don't normally consider. Gods of the Egyptians. Gods of the Egyptians. It has all of the gods in the pantheon, and their explanations and their duties and what they were being honored of being the god of, like the god of the hoe, the god of music, the god of knowledge, that kind of thing. But it says, Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, inventor of the art of writing, Osiris, the dead god who arose and set the pattern for death and resurrection gods ever since, Isis, the great mother, wandering through the reed swamps, Anubis, conductor of the dead, the jackal head, Bast, the cat goddess, Set, the evil serpent, Ta, the living money, my God, it just goes on and on. But I guess it's their history and their lives and their cult centers and how they were worshipped and all that stuff. But anyway, that's that. I'm going to shut up. I could go on and on. Hopefully this will spark a discussion. If you got any comments or opinions about what I've said today, drop me a line. I'd love to hear it. And let's start a good, healthy conversation. You guys have a wonderful day. Stay cool and keep reading.